Vanessa Guillen, a young soldier with big dreams and an even bigger heart, whose disappearance left not only her family, but an entire country in mourning. In this video, we dive deep into her story, explore the circumstances of her disappearance, and honor the memory of a woman whose life and tragedy made history. Vanessa was born on September 30th, 1999, in Houston, Texas. She grew up in a large family and was the second youngest of 6 siblings. Her family often describes her as passionate and loving, and soccer was one of her biggest hobbies. She went to high school in Houston and decided to serve her country after graduation, so she enlisted in the U.S. Army on her 18th birthday. After her basic training, she was assigned to a unit at Fort Hood, Texas. Vanessa worked there as a repair technician. Naturally, everyone in the family was very happy that their daughter and sister would be working so close to home. In 1942, the so-called Camp Hood was founded in Texas, named after General John Bell Hood. It was originally a training camp for tank destroyer units during the Second World War and was used to train soldiers. It was called Fort Hood until May 2023 and was renamed Fort Cavazos in honor of General Richard Cavazos, who served in the Korean War. Whether the events surrounding Vanessa are also a reason remains to be seen. But I don't think it's a disadvantage for the Army to rename the base after the disappearance in 2020 and the very bad press it received. The disappearance of Vanessa Guillen on April 22, 2020 is a story that not only shocked her family and friends, but also left the entire nation in suspense. On the day in question, Vanessa left her accommodation at Fort Hood in the morning as usual. She was last seen in the base armory at lunchtime. Her car, keys, and wallet were left behind, an unusual circumstance that quickly drew attention. When Vanessa didn't show up until the evening, her family and friends knew something was wrong. Her sister Lupe was one of the first to raise the alarm. She contacted the base and launched a desperate appeal on social media. Her absence was noticed not only by her family, but also by her comrades on the base. The media quickly picked up on the case, and within days, news of Vanessa's disappearance spread. On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, thousands demanded answers and justice using the hashtags #FindVanessa and Justice for Vanessa. However, the first official statements from the military were sparse. Confirmation of her disappearance and assurances that they were looking for her were the main focus. But the lack of transparent communication and urgency caused frustration and mistrust. Communication with the family also left a lot to be desired. Many wondered whether the base was doing enough to find Vanessa. The desperate search for Vanessa Guillen took a tragic turn when human remains were discovered near the Leon River, about 30 miles east of Fort Hood, on June 30th, 2020. The circumstances of this discovery were shocking. Officials were quickly on the scene and began collecting evidence. Initial findings suggested it could be Vanessa. However, it took several days for DNA tests to confirm what many had already feared. The remains were those of Vanessa Guillen. The news of this discovery sent shockwaves throughout the country. Vanessa's family, who had fought so hard to find her, was devastated. Her mother, Gloria, spoke out in the media, and her despair was palpable to everyone. The public mourned collectively, and many gathered at memorial events and vigils. Fort Hood was under immense pressure, and shortly after the discovery, they issued an official statement. In it, they lamented the tragic loss and promised to fully clarify the circumstances of Vanessa's death. However, many accused the base of not doing enough in the initial phase of the investigation. The subsequent forensic investigations and autopsy revealed more shocking details. It was determined that Vanessa had fallen victim to a violent act, with the exact time of death and precise circumstances still being the subject of investigation at that time. These findings intensified the call for justice for Vanessa and raised even more questions about what had actually happened on the military base. In the turbulent story of Vanessa Guillen's disappearance and death, several individuals became central to the investigations. One of the main suspects was Aaron David Robinson, a soldier stationed at Fort Hood. His relationship with Vanessa was professional in nature. Both worked in the same armory on the base. Although there were no signs of a close personal bond between them, suspicions soon arose that Robinson was involved in Vanessa's disappearance. Robinson's exact motives initially remained unclear, but there were indications that Vanessa might have experienced harassment or unwanted advances from a colleague. While not definitively confirmed, it was speculated that this pattern of harassment and the potential exposure of these actions led to Vanessa's death. The interrogations and investigations brought to light some disturbing details. It was found that Robinson had not acted alone. Cecily Aguilar, a civilian and Robinson's girlfriend, was also involved in the act, particularly in the attempt to make Vanessa's body disappear. It turned out that Vanessa was murdered on April 22nd, the day of her disappearance. Aaron David Robinson killed her in the armory with a hammer. According to several reports, his girlfriend Cecily helped him mutilate and hide the body. On June 30th, when Vanessa's body was found by construction workers, the alleged murderer Robinson fled from Fort Hood. Early on the morning of July 1st, investigators located him, but Aaron turned to a weapon and shot himself. Shortly thereafter, his girlfriend Cecily was arrested. In November 2022, she pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting murder and making 3 false statements. The sentencing occurred in August 2023. It was also revealed that she not only assisted with the body, but also deleted information from Robinson's Google account. I assume these were location data, which of course would have been perfect evidence. The exact reason for Vanessa Guillen's death could not be conclusively determined. The family suspects that she was sexually abused by Robinson shortly before her death. Robinson had been accused of sexual harassment in the past, although not in connection with Vanessa. The case of Vanessa Guillen not only changed the lives of her family and friends, but also left deep marks in American society. From the outset, public perception was shaped by intense media coverage. Media outlets from across the country reported almost daily on the case. Vanessa quickly became a symbol for the many unheard voices who had experienced violence and abuse in the military. Her story touched the hearts of millions. Protests occurred in many cities across the USA. People demanded justice for Vanessa and a reform of military culture. Justice for Vanessa became a call that echoed far beyond the borders of Fort Hood. Many saw her fate as a symptom of a larger problem within the military. These national demands did not go unnoticed. The military announced several internal investigations and reviews of its processes, particularly regarding the handling of harassment and violence cases. There were calls to radically rethink the structure and reporting of such incidents. Legally, the case also led to significant developments. Apart from the legal proceedings against Cecily Aguilar, there were increased calls for external, independent investigations of incidents of violence in the military. Vanessa Guillen's family, along with several politicians, fought for new laws, ultimately leading to the implementation of several reforms. These reforms included the creation of a separate offense for sexual harassment in the military code and the transfer of decision-making authority over criminal prosecution measures to the Attorney General. These changes were made as part of the National Defense Authorization Act and were ratified by U.S. President Joe Biden in December 2022. In August of this year, Natalie Kawam, the lawyer for Vanessa Guillen's family, filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Army for $35 million. The lawsuit cites reasons such as sexual assaults and Vanessa's death. There are many other interesting aspects to this case, like interviews with the family, but they would go beyond the scope of this video. On Netflix, there's a movie titled I Am Vanessa Guillen that you might want to watch. It tells the story from her family's perspective and delves deeper into their efforts for new legislation. However, Vanessa Guillen's legacy is much more than just the sum of these events. She became the face of a movement that demands real change and justice. Under the mentioned hashtags, similar stories of other women in the Army are still found today. Vanessa's story will serve as a warning and reminder that systems and institutions, even the most powerful in the world, must be held accountable. And her name will always be remembered as a symbol of courage, change, and the relentless pursuit of justice. That's it for this video. Thank you so much if you've watched this far. I would really appreciate a thumbs up, a subscription, and a comment, as it helps the channel a lot with all the work and is incredibly motivating. Here, you'll find another video. Every day counts. Take care.